Hello and welcome to the Reef Dork Extra channel. Now this week Red Sea have released details of their new Smart Auto Top Off. You might have seen their marketing video already when they tell you most of the things you need to know, but I sat down with them last week and they told me a few secrets that I'm going to share with you for two reasons. One, because that's the kind of guy I am, and two, because they're not really secrets and they wanted me to share them. So I've made a few notes from my meeting, and in today's video I'll tell you all of the things you need to know about the pump that you didn't find out from Red Sea. Now first up, let's cover off some of the practicalities. There are two ways of mounting it. Firstly, if you have an existing Red Sea reefer tank and you've kept the float valve in place, you can simply pop out the float valve and put the new sensor in place. Now on my tank, I took that out a long time ago and I actually removed the little bit of siliconed in plastic, so I can't do that. That means that I have to use option 2, which is what you use if you don't have that, or if you have another tank that isn't a Red Sea reefer, and that is magnets. Now the magnet mount has to be mounted on the corner of the return pump section of your sump, which is for stability because it's important that the sensors are dead straight. Now the magnets will hold firm on glass up to 12mm thick, although most sumps are probably around 8mm. Now on my sump, I'm only going to be able to fit one magnet in place because I don't have a gap big enough for the magnet between the sump and the cabinet. But I've been told that on an 8mm glass sump like I have, that shouldn't be a problem and that one magnet still should hold firm. Now the Red Sea video shows that there is a gap of just 3mm between the off and on position sensors, which means that it won't dispense an awful lot of liquid, so it's nice and precise. And you'll also see there's a backup sensor about 2cm, which is just under an inch above the off position, so if for whatever reason it gets stuck, the backup sensor will cut the water flow. It also has an extra backup by way of a timer. Now most timers will be just set at 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, and the pump will turn off after that. But Red Sea say that theirs is a smart timer. And the way theirs works is that it works out how much time the pump is on for every time it dispenses, so it can work out an average fill time. The system then applies a multiplier to that. They didn't tell me what it was, but let's say for the sake of argument it's 10. So if water was dispensing for 5 seconds, the multiplier takes it up to 50 seconds, and that means that the pump would turn off after 50 seconds. That's a much more accurate way of doing it than just applying a standard clock of 5 or 10 minutes. And it also means that it doesn't matter what size your tank is, because this will adjust for large or small tanks. Almost all tanks have a return pump section in the sump that is proportionate to the size of their tank, which means that the calculation feature will work out whether it's a small or large tank and implement the cutoff timer at the relevant time point, bearing in mind the tank size. And the final thing to tell you about the redundancies is that the backup sensor is smart, so it knows what's going on. And that means that if you turn your return pumps off, the water level will probably rise to the level of the backup sensors. But because the pump will know that the pump isn't dispensing water, it won't send you a notification to tell you there's a problem because it knows that you've just turned your return pumps off and there's nothing to worry about. So those are the practicalities. What about the extra features? Well, the first and most significant one is that it has a temperature monitor. Now Red Sea say this is a high accuracy temperature sensor and that every unit is calibrated in the factory to within 0.1 degrees. And as if that's not enough, it also has a matching feature. Now if you, like me, have more than one temperature reading on your tank, there is nothing more annoying than when they both read different values. It doesn't really matter which one's right, it's just annoying. But with the Red Sea unit, although they say that theirs is more accurate, you can tell it to match the other temperature reading of your other thermometer, so everything is consistent and you get the same number all the time. And that means you don't have to buy a temperature monitor because the Red Sea Auto top-off temperature sensor will tell you when your temperature goes outside of your desired range. Now it doesn't act as a heating controller because it can't turn on and off your heating or cooling equipment. But I suspect Red Sea might be working on that in the future, and to me it would make sense if that was one of their next products. And it will also give you a temperature log. Now if you don't currently have a temperature log, it is really interesting data, and when I got mine, the refactory thermo control, it showed me that my temperature was peaking and troughing quite a lot throughout the day, and by chasing back and finding out what the problem was, I managed to flatten out my temperature nicely. So anything that gives you data like that, in my book, is a good thing. And the final bonus feature is the leak detector. Now you can place this pretty much wherever you want, whether it's next to your sump, in your electrics cabinet, or on the floor by the tank where your tank touches your carpet or your wooden floors or whatever. The leak detector can detect either fresh or salt water, so if your tank overflows, it will give you an alarm to tell you that there's a leak. Or equally, if your freshwater reservoir overflows, it will tell you that there's a leak. And because the Red Sea app is kind of stealthily becoming an aquarium controller, you can set it to turn various pumps off when it detects a leak. The app also records further data in that it will tell you how much water is being dispensed and how often your pump is going on throughout the day. Now that will record a month of data, so if you want more than that, you'll need to back it up, but you can do so and store in a spreadsheet. Now that is really useful data and just interesting to know what's going on with your tank. But if, like me, you dose kalkwasser, it is really interesting data because you get to know how much your tank loses to evaporation, A, from day to day, but B, more importantly, from month to month and over the course of the season, so you can build a map to understand exactly how much fresh water you're losing to evaporation and therefore how much kalkwasser you can add throughout the year. Now you can of course work that out manually, which is what I've done, but having that extra data is really useful. Now out of the box, that is only an estimate. The app will ask you a few pieces of data, like how long your RODI tube is and that sort of thing, and it will work out an estimate of how much is dispensed, but you can also calibrate it if you want an accurate figure, which I most certainly will. And the other noteworthy feature from the app is that it will tell you when your freshwater reservoir runs dry, so you can go and top it up. And by that, what I mean is it will give you a notification, and it will also turn the pump off if it's running dry, and send you a notification to tell you as much. So for an auto top off, this is quite an advanced piece of kit, and it comes with some cool extra features. But there are a couple of downsides that I think might be a problem, so let's have a look at those. Firstly, the pump isn't especially powerful and it only has a head height rating of 2.5 meters. Now that will be suitable for probably 95 to 99% of people, but if you run your auto top off from your basement, it won't be suitable for you as it won't be able to push water that high. Then there's the price. Now it's £170 to £200 or dollars, depending on whether you get the kit with a magnet or not. Of course, the magnet is more expensive. And while that makes it cheaper than the current best option on the market, the Tunzi Osmolator, it is still quite an expensive product. So if you're looking for something a bit more budget friendly, this isn't for you either, as it is a premium product aimed at the premium end of the market. And the final downside, as far as I can see, is that the sensor technology is unproven. Now with the Tunzi Osmolator, you have thousands of people who have used these for years and years and years, so you know it's reliable and you know it's solid. Whereas because the Red Sea Auto Top-Off Kit will be new to the market, you don't have that bank of useful anecdotal information to tell you how reliable it is. And the sensor is totally different to anything else on the market because it's not an optical sensor or a float valve, so you can't even have a guess at how reliable it will be based on that technology. Now the only thing I'll say on that is that Red Sea are very confident that this is extremely reliable, and they've also built in a couple of redundancy features. Now they have used this technology on their reef map for the last year or so they've got a good amount of experience with that, and they've also put it in their new range of skimmers, so they're obviously confident it works. But with something like reliability, the only way to know is to see how it gets on, so at launch at least that puts it at a disadvantage against its competitors. Overall though, I think it looks like a really good bit of kit, and I'm hoping to get my hands on one when it's released in a few months. If you've got any questions or if you think I've missed anything, let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe for next time, and until then, happy reefing.